And a good morning, Birds fans. A Monday morning, a holiday Monday morning, most importantly, a game day Monday morning. We here at Birds 365 live for days like this. The Eagles in a playoff game. Monday, I'd rather a Sunday, but that's okay. We've had to wait all weekend. The last of the 6 wildcard games. It will get here tonight at some point. But there's a whole bunch that happened on the way up to the game that we're going to discuss here today. As you can see, my partner today has way too much hair to be John McMullen. That would be Bill Colarulo, our Power Hour guy here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Johnny Mac winging his way down to Tampa to be in the house for the Bucs and the Eagles tonight. Bill, I want to be optimistic about tonight's Eagles game. I want to believe that the Eagles can flip a switch and go back to the team that was 10-1, not the team that's lost 5 out of its last 6. But I don't really have any hard evidence to hook that belief into, other than they've been a very good team for the past 2 years, for the majority of the time. Not the last month and a half, but the last 2 years they've been a very good football team. Why should I believe that it can be just that easy? They put their mind to it, and they go back to being the Eagles team that was 10-1 to start the season.
I was right along with you, Jody. I had lost hope. I wasn't as excited for this playoff game as I've been in previous years. I talked about it all week. The vibe was bad. But for me, everything changed yesterday, because what this team has been saying all week is that the playoffs are a brand new season. And damn it, did we not learn that the playoffs are a brand new season watching those Dallas Cowboys. Here we go. Getting dominated yesterday. The day before, you saw the Cleveland Browns' #1 defense get shredded by the Houston Texans. So where I'm finding hope and some joy is that this is a brand new season. And we saw 2 teams in the Browns and the Cowboys do things that they didn't do all season long. The Cowboys were unstoppable at AT&T Stadium all year. So I'm taking solace in it's a new season. Let's get fired up.
And that's a good way to look at it, because you're right on both fronts. I kind of thought the Texans were going to win the game the way that they won it. No, I thought the Packers were going to be competitive with the Cowboys. Said it yesterday morning on WIP. Blowing out the Dallas Cowboys. I did not see that coming. No way, no chance, no how. So you're right. Things do change and can change when you come into the playoffs. And that's a good, optimistic, positive way to look at it. But then I got to come back to the reality of the Eagles are going to be without their best football player tonight. And John and I have both agreed on this, that if you're just ranking the players, John and Ed Kratz did a ranking of not the most important players, because the most important player is always going to be your quarterback. So Jalen Hurts would have to top that list. Their list instead was the most talented player, the best player at his position on the Eagles before the year started. And John and Ed had Lane Johnson #1, and it was either Kelsey or A.J. Brown, 2-3, 3-2, whatever order they were. But I know he had Lane #1, and I agree with him. After the season, best player in the Philadelphia Eagles is A.J. Brown. And I don't think there's an argument. It's not really all that close. And they go into this game with no A.J. Brown. This would work. It'll work well with you, but it would work better with McMullen, because he and I go back and forth on this all the time. The coach is borderline obsessed with competitive advantage, that he wants to try and grab a competitive advantage everywhere, every which way he can. They announced A.J. Brown was out on Friday. Why would you do something like that? Why wouldn't you make the Tampa Bay Buccaneers prepare for A.J. Brown, think about A.J. Brown? They decided at this juncture to say, we're going to be honest and forthright and upright and tell you that he's not going to play. There's something more there than meets the eye, which I haven't quite figured out yet, but we'll save that for another day, maybe next week. The bottom line is they don't have A.J. Brown to play. You got faith Quez Watkins going to be able to step up and be even A.J. Brown light in this game?
No, I don't have any faith in Quez Watkins. I haven't had faith in him in a couple of seasons. But the silver lining here, because I'm trying to keep it positive today, Jody, the silver lining here is, does A.J. Brown, your best wide receiver, as you said, probably your best offensive player, not being in the game, does that force this offense to say, you know what, we need to get back to what everyone's been calling for our identity to be? We have one of the best offensive lines in football. Yeah, the Bucs can stop the run, but we completely dominated the line of scrimmage back in week 3, rushing for over 200 yards in that game. Do they commit to the running game because they don't have A.J. Brown? Do they have a more balanced attack because they don't have A.J. Brown? Because we've seen it all season, and rightfully so at times. They do try to force the ball to A.J. Brian Johnson said as much in one of his press conferences. We have to force him the ball. He's that good of a player. So now when you eliminate that player, I'm not saying it makes your offense better because it doesn't, but does it force them to be a little bit more balanced, commit to the run? And I think that's the way they win this football game. They have to win the time of possession battle. Their defense stinks. So you have to do whatever you can do to keep your defense on the sidelines as much as possible. That's the silver lining I'm taking from this. But no, I don't have faith in Quez Watkins. And I mean, how ridiculous. We can get away from last week's game, but ridiculous it is that Quez Watkins is posting after the game pictures of himself scoring a touchdown in a meaningless Week 8 game. But yeah, I'm no faith in Quez.
Hey, Quez didn't have a picture to post all year. He finally had one. He took advantage of it and said, hey, look, I did score. Yeah, I'm still capable of scoring.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with his posting of pictures. I have a problem with his game and his talent level and the fact that he's not going to be able to replace A.J. Brown. Well, Bill Colarulo, I hope you're right. I'm not 100% sure that the Nick Sirianni offense, which he continues to tell us his offense, in attempt to protect Brian Johnson, he's taken some bullets here and said, it's all about me. It's my offense. I might not be calling the plays in the moment during the game, but this is an offense we come up with collectively, collaboratively during the week, and it is my. I don't know if the Nick Sirianni offense will go that route. Last year when they made that decision, not last year, 2 years ago, when Nick was just taking over as head coach, and very early on, they struggled, and he said, you know, I'm not doing the job as the head coach. I'm so in tune with the play calling and the offense, and I'm ignoring the defense. Let me turn the play calling over to Shane Steichen. And Shane Steichen had the nerve, and I don't think Shane Steichen's offense was as in lockstep as Brian Johnson's offense is in lockstep with Nick Sirianni. 45. How many runs do you think they're going to call tonight? They ran it great against this team week 2 of the season. It was all DeAndre Swift. This week you got both DeAndre Swift and Kenny Gainwell, which 2 is better than 1. And if they balance it correctly, I think it could be very effective. How many times do you think Brian Johnson is willing to call running plays tonight?
Well, you go back to week 3, they ran it 40 times. In that game, they averaged over 5 yards a carry. I think they gave Swift 16. I think Kenny G did get 14 carries. Hurts had 10. So they did run it 40 times in week 3, but I don't know how much they would commit to the run tonight, but I'm hoping at least 25 carries for our running backs. Because when I talk about running the football, I don't want to see designed runs to Jalen Hurts with no pass option built in. That's the thing that's puzzled me all year, Jody, is people talk about, well, Jalen Hurts clearly isn't healthy. Jalen Hurts isn't running the ball as much. That's why the offense isn't as effective. But yet you look at some of these play calls, they're calling designed runs where there's no pass option built into the play. Case in point was the end of the Arizona Cardinals game when they get down to the 20-yard line, back-to-back designed runs to Hurts with no pass option. So when I talk about running the football, I don't necessarily care if we see the final number at 30 or 40, if 15 of those carries are Jalen Hurts. I want our running backs to get at least 25 carries tonight. 15 for Swift, 10 for Kenny Gainwell, and I'll be happy.
And I'm okay. I gotta state this correctly. I have been okay with Jalen Hurts designed running plays in 2022. He's very good at it. This year's just not as good. I don't know if it's injuries. I don't know if it's in tentativeness, but he's just not as effective a runner on designed run plays. You're right.
But I felt like a lot of those, Jody, last year, and I have to go check the numbers, but I felt like a lot of those runs last year were the RPO, where there was a pass option built in. So it made it hard on the defense. Whereas this season, I feel like a lot of these runs, there is no other option. It's just Jalen Hurts is going to run the football. And when you take that pass option away from him, it makes it a lot easier for the defense to stop them. But
you think he's running more straight running plays this year than last year?
I do. I think there's more. I think there's
Okay.
more designed runs without the RPO. For whatever reason, they really have gotten away from it. I know teams have shut it down. I did the analysis a few weeks ago where the average yards per play was a lot less on the RPO this season. Teams are taking it away. I just like giving your quarterback the option that when he's rolling out, he has an option. Hey, I can run or I can pull this ball and throw it. So we'll see tonight what they do.
And oh, by the way, I know this has no chance of happening, but I just put it away for future reference for next year going forward or wherever. The Green Bay Packers, with Jordan Love running their offense, ran under center about 75 to 80% of the time. They have built an offense where it doesn't have to have the 2022, 2023 NFL stamp on it. Everybody runs under the gun. Everything comes out of the gun. You never put your quarterback under center. The Green Bay Packers do it just fine because they've determined that that's the best for their quarterback. And I got to tell you, I was impressed. Jordan Love has a great drop back. He's quick. He gets to that 7-step. He steps forward into his throws when he throws them because he plants that back foot and comes forward. So the whole, you got to run out of the gun because everybody runs out of the gun in the National Football League. No, you don't. The Green Bay Packers didn't yesterday, and they marched it up and down the field against the Dallas Cowboys. Don't give me that garbage going forward. Maybe next year we'll see a little bit more of the Eagles using Jalen Hurts under center. I doubt it, but I was impressed by the Green Bay Packers and what they did yesterday. So they head down to Tampa tonight. Yeah, we're hoping they run the football a little bit more balance. Bill doesn't want any part of Jalen Hurts' designated runs. The offense and Dallas Goedert's got to step up tonight. Dallas Goedert said some peculiar things this week that maybe they let off the accelerator when they qualified for the playoffs in 10-1, and they took some teams for granted. It wasn't really all that uplifting a stance, but he was trying to come up with an explanation. How do you go from 10-1 to 1-5? And I give him credit for at least trying, even though he didn't say anything I wanted to hear. Here's what I want to hear tonight, Dallas. 6 catches for 85 yards and a touchdown. Everything else we'll put aside. Effort, thought process, didn't give enough preparation time for an opponent. You got no excuses. This is the playoffs. The team should be prepared. Dallas Goedert should be prepared. Do you think he can be a big part of their offense tonight?
I do. And not only in the receiving game, which I'm hoping he has, but in the running game, because we know how good of a blocker Dallas Goedert is in the running game. So I really expect him to be a big part of the offense in both aspects. But I agree with you. If they can get him involved in the passing game, but what I want to see, and this is what I feel like has really lacked all season with Dallas Goedert, is getting him the ball in space to allow him to pick up those yards after catch. It seems like every time they've thrown the ball to Goedert this year, they got him running laterally towards the sidelines. The play doesn't work. They run those bubble screens. I'd like to see him get the ball in the middle of the field, design some plays to get him in space because he's so tough to bring down when he gets the ball in his hands. So expecting a big game from Dallas Goedert. I think they need it. Running game, passing game. Goddard's got to step up big tonight. You're right.
He does. And I like your thought process. Use the middle of the field. The only thing that gives me pause and concern there is Tampa is another one of these teams that actually have linebackers that can play. Not so.
And safeties, too, with Antoine Winfield Jr. He's pretty good.
Right. In both coverage and his ability to blitz, which, oh, by the way, yeah, the blitz is coming from every which way tonight.
Does Todd Bowles blitz?
Yes, Todd Bowles blitzes. They have a very aggressive defense, maybe even more so than Wink Martindale. Everyone acknowledges Wink is the biggest blitzer in the National Football League. I think Bowles might actually even match him, or maybe it's just this defensive iteration is better at it than the Giants' defense. But, yeah, the Eagles are going to have plays where you talk about Dallas Goedert, 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, sit down right in the middle, make a catch, break a tackle, turn it upfield, maybe you move the sticks. That's something that the Eagles are going to have to try and do tonight. On offense, on defense, Billy C., not only are they, again, it's not as big a loss as A.J. Brown. Nothing can be as big as a loss of A.J. Brown, but no Sidney Brown tonight. They're short on the safety position to begin with. This defense has basically cratered the last month and a half of the season, starting with Sean Desai, following, if not picking up steam, with Matt Patricia taking over. What are you putting your hopeful eggs in what basket on the defensive side of the ball tonight that the Eagles can do something to turn around what has been a lame defensive effort for 6 or 7 weeks?
They have to get back to being able to stop the run. You look at this Bucs team, they are the worst rushing offense in the entire league. They finished the year 32 out of 32 NFL teams.
Nice.
And you go back to the first 9 games of the year, the Eagles defense, they didn't do a lot of things well, but they stopped the run really well. Number 1 in the NFL. They only let one team through the first 9 games rush for over 100 yards. That was the Commanders in overtime. But now you look at the last 8, every single opponent has rushed for over 100 yards. They have to stop the run against a bad rushing offense. Turn the Bucs offense into a one-dimensional offense. Stop them early. Get them in the 3rd and long situations. We know how good Mike Evans is. Chris Godwin, another good wide receiver. But if you could take away the run early and put them in the 3rd and long situations, hopefully they can get off the field. We know they've struggled on 3rd down as well. But that's the key for me, man, is just stop the run. This team can't run the football. Take it away and make it a little bit easier on yourselves on 3rd down.
And, oh, by the way, and I think this is going to be a non-story, but they're still listing Baker Mayfield as questionable, which I don't quite understand. Either he's going to play or he's not going to play. And I think by the time we get to 8 o'clock and kickoff will be coming around, it'll be well known that Baker Mayfield's going to start. Is he going to finish? That would be nice, a little physicality. I know that they're waiting to throw flags to protect quarterbacks in the National Football League these days, but I'd like the Eagles' chances against Kyle Trask. That would get me more optimistic going into this game, getting a guy who's never had any true meaningful snaps, certainly nothing like a playoff game type snaps, if Baker Mayfield were to go out tonight. All right, he's Bill Colarulo filling in for Johnny Mack today, who's winging his way down to Tampa. We got our first guest up next, one of the best in the business when it comes to covering the Philadelphia Eagles. I check his website, Bleeding Green Nation, every single morning before I hop on Birds 365. Brandon Lee Gowton, editor of Bleeding Green Nation, joins us next here on Birds 365.